we disrupted the Met Opera, which is not targeting a single person, it's targeting a concept, essentially, which is that fascists essentially bankroll cultural institutions in America because we don't have public funding for the arts. We disrupted it because it's fundamentally hypocritical to have the people who are funding, supporting ICE, Charles and David Koch, they're like the major contributors to Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. They're like the biggest donors to both of those organizations, which is the reason that ICE exists in its current iteration. So we just kind of wanted to throw it in liberals' faces and be like, hey, listen, this is what you're supporting with your dollars or your attendance.
To War is Stupid, an anti-war podcast about war. My guest today is a comedian and activist who recently made his Met Opera debut. Much like Robin Williams before us. I'm very grateful to have Davidson Boswell for many reasons, including the fact that we need new leftist heroes now that Chomsky is in the Epstein files.
Yes, I know. Alongside Steve Bannon, no less.
I'm so mad at the Twitter joke, like in that I didn't come up with first. That was like manufacturing the age of consent. Like it was.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Right there. So good. I wish I could immediately cite the tweeter. So thank you to whoever tweeted that. But yes, welcome, Davidson. Tell me about your trip to the opera.
Well, yeah. Okay. So, first of all, thank you for having me, Orli. It's nice to talk to you. So I am involved in direct action, which is like confronting powerful people to their face. A lot of the times it is, Lisa Murkowski giving a speech at a climate summit or David Rubenstein talking at a conservation charity or something. But these are all people who are ruining our lives objectively. This one was a little bit more controversial because we disrupted the Met Opera, which is not targeting a single person, it's targeting a concept, essentially, which is that fascists essentially bankroll cultural institutions in America because we don't have public funding for the arts. So the Kochs, Charles and David Koch, have their names on the Lincoln Center, which is the largest performing arts center anywhere in the world. It's on the Upper West Side of New York. And the Met Opera was doing a rendition of Carmen, which is this very famous opera from the mid 1800s. It's about a fascist soldier in Spain that falls in love with, I guess you would call, back then they called them gypsies, but now you would call them Romanis, right? So they fell in love with each other, and they have repurposed this opera to include singing ICE agents, so Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. So we disrupted it because it's fundamentally hypocritical to have the people who are funding, supporting ICE, Charles and David Koch, they're like the major contributors to Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. They're like the biggest donors to both of those organizations, which is the reason that ICE exists in its current iteration, the one that's like pulling kids out of their mother's minivans. So we just kind of wanted to throw it in liberals' faces and be like, hey, listen, this is what you're supporting with your dollars or your attendance. So my 2 buddies, Zevon and Nate, took the stage, dressed up as ICE agents
My God.
and kind of, yeah, paraded on stage, and I think scared some of the performers. I don't think, I know they scared some of the performers, which is a bummer, but unfortunately, their fear does not trump the fear that immigrants feel in America. And then when they were summarily tackled, I stood up and started being like, this is 1933 Germany. The way you fight fascists is not with ironic opera. You get out into the streets and you, so yeah, I guess like and we went to jail for it. But the thinking behind it is like we have to shake people awake essentially. So that was the action.
Yeah, how long were you in jail?
I was in jail for 24 hours. The
Wow.
first one was overnight at just the local precinct, the 20th precinct in New York. Very cold in jail. You'd be well dressed for jail right now,
Yeah.
Orly. You have a nice hoodie on. I would not be. Uh,
You gotta get
but
your, Uniqlo heat tech next time
yeah,
before.
absolutely. Yeah. Or ask a cop for his vest. Anyway, but yeah, I was like very cold in jail, but I was like, okay, well, this is gonna last a few hours because what we did was completely nonviolent. But the the Metropolitan Opera was very much slow rolling the evidence that they wanted to give the cops, so we needed to be held longer than overnight. So they transferred us to a place called the Tombs, which is an underground prison complex underneath New York, the New York court system. So there's a series of tunnels that have
What
all these holding cells.
this sounds like Les Mis, like the
Yeah,
catacombs.
yeah, the gallows essentially. Um, and I I haven't said this publicly yet, but I would really love to take Twitter discourse about gender equality and human rights into the all male prison system of New York. The stuff you hear down there is like, oh my God, like, so there's like where we think we've made progress, like men and women are equal, and then you hear I guess people who are completely starved for attention of any sort, all vociferously agreeing on like issues of domestic violence and stuff like that. It was wild being in that environment, and I don't know how to say this appropriately. I just wish more people could spend 24 hours in jail, almost as a cultural experience, but like have more food than I did.
Yeah, is that yeah, when people say, like, "Log off, go cut touch grass, go connect with the actual
Log off, go to
people."
prison. Like,
Yeah.
I think that would be like people, I don't mean to out you, but we're both white, you know what
Oh,
I mean? Like
what? Yeah.
yeah, and I think like also like just not privy to these because a lot of these are just repeat turnstile hoppers, people that are completely
Oh
caught
my
up in the
gosh.
system.
Incredible use of resources. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's really upsetting, but you do hear kind of like what the actual world is like in prison, people who like if you fuck up once, you're in jail. You're not like sent to a friendly magistrate or like, in a suburb or a cul-de-sac. This is like hardcore shit. But they were very curious about what we were in there for because we were all in like, you know, nicer attire because we were attending the opera, and they marched us in like a chain gang into the jail cell. So it was illuminating, but it was also very like, oh, I mean, this would take like in order to affect change, you would have to have like 10,000 white people go to jail all at once, right? And similar
Wow.
to like the civil rights era.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That and ironically very operatic.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. You would
The
need like
high
you need a
drama.
crescendo. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean like I guess my theory of change doing stuff like this is not so much um, you know, like disseminating it on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. It's basically being like The power elite are not going to respond to letter writing or, talking to your congressman. Uh, the society needs to grind to a halt, essentially. And one way to do it, and you see this with the ICE raids happening right now, people are buying like one single ice scraper at Home Depot and then returning it immediately, like crippling the day-to-day business of a uh, Home Depot. So what we could do essentially is like all go to jail for bullshit on one day, and it would, it would show our power. But a lot of people want their kava bowls. They don't really want to be doing all that.
Yeah, the idea of like art washing is so interesting because, yeah, we're both comics, we're in the entertainment industry, and I've like been having a hard time getting hype about award season. Did you
Yes.
did you see One Battle After Another?
I loved it. Yes.
I did. I saw it with friends and had a great time, but I was with my friend who's an immigration attorney, and she found the whole thing hypocritical. That like, oh, it's talking about like celebrating revolutionaries and who busted people out of the holding cells and family separation. But like, where's Leonardo DiCaprio on the press tour saying anything about this happening in real life? Or no, he's investing in an eco hotel in Israel.
Yeah, exactly. And like partying with Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos on their yacht. Like, I mean, he's a brilliant actor, but morally, like, not there. And I feel like that goes for a lot of people. And you see like what's happening with Billie Eilish right now. Like,
What
there
is?
well, she's being like talked about very negatively in the press ever since she like called out Mark Zuckerberg to his face, called out genocide. Like, you see, like, she released a live album is never gonna track well, right? Like, it's not meant to like chart top, but there's all this like really, really negative attention about her latest album, and I really doubt it would exist if she wasn't so virulently pro-Palestine, anti-billionaire. So there's this like I think Leonardo DiCaprio in his mind is like, I can be a revolutionary, but I also need to work the circuit, which
Yeah.
is why nothing ever changes.
Right. Like, I'm not a revolutionary. I just play one on TV.
Very much so, yes.
So yeah, if it's not art, that's that's gonna that's gonna save us. Yeah, I got it. One thing, like the whole city of Los Angeles in itself just feels like hypocrisy incarnate. Like I think about it a lot. It bums me out because in New York City, obviously the wealth disparity is glaring, but you know that at least like people on the Upper East Side still like have to smell the piss sometimes
Yeah, exactly.
if they leave the house. But like in LA, like the hedges are so high you can't even see the houses. Like, yeah, do you think that there's any chance of people being publicly shamed into doing the right things?
I'm not sure if this is like, and I go like back and forth. I read this really great book, The Haves and the Have-Yachts, and
That's
hedgerows
funny.
are getting taller, right? Because there's ordinances in place to be like, oh, you can't make taller than 9-foot hedgerows because that's like egregiously antisocial. But the penalty is a fine, and if you're telling people you have to pay $1,000 a month, or you can have your hedgerows taller, people are going to be like, I'll pay $1,000 a month, right? So again, this is just another signifier that they're impregnable, but they do want to be around each other and pass glass awards to one another
Hmm.
and be like, we are so cool and you guys worship us and stuff like that. And so if you can't get to them, I think you can at least activate other people, you know, people that are younger than us that have. Uh, I'm 34, Orly. I would imagine you're like somewhere in
32, yeah.
my age range. The people 10 years beneath us have no shot. They're cooked if they don't like stand up right now.
Yeah, they
I
did.
Go ahead.
Or that's so interesting. I always think of, like, we're millennials, we were fucked, but at least we got to go to college in person all
Right,
4
totally,
years.
totally.
Like, yeah, the Gen Z people you organize with, like, did they ever have any time where they could enjoy anything?
I know, it must be like it's just like being fed straight into a paper shredder, you know?
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh god, like my future up in flames." So the world has felt so different since COVID, and I think like it's powerful to give voice to that and let people know that they're not alone. Um I Yeah, so I know I don't think that you can appeal to amoral billionaires, but I think you can make their lives so incomprehensible to them, so like stuck in the mud that they're forced to make concessions. Because I mean, in the haves and the have-yets, I talk about like even if you do fly to your New Zealand bunker, who's gonna fly you? And
Right.
won't they need their families there? You know, like they're not gonna be like, yeah, let me abandon their family. And then when money's worth, like, there's no end game to all of this. So it's about making billionaires feel you. It's about making the power elite feel you. And the Met Opera is different than the other actions, but it was more powerful, I think, in the way that it was like talking about the complete complacency of the liberal class, and there were definitely millionaires in the audience there, like, the where I was sitting were, like, $400 a piece tickets, you know, and
Wow.
there were seats in front of me, so, like, you gotta be pretty rich to, like, do that on a random Tuesday, you know?
Yeah, think about it a lot. Like, if we can't appeal to people's morality, then naturally there's still the self interest. I still don't understand like how it's not registering to people that like it is in your own self interest that the people serving you don't want to kill you.
Right. Yeah, yeah. You don't wanna, like, inspire that level of anger, which I mean, I'm listening to that, not autobiography, biography of Elon Musk right now, and it comes to them honestly. They have never been able to like connect with human beings on a level. And unfortunately, capitalism is set up to where like people who don't value human connection can succeed because they don't think twice about riding roughshod over another person. Um, but there's a backlash to everything, and the backlash is upon them now. I mean, you saw the Donald Trump thing with Rob Reiner. Like, that shit is horrific, right? And it's like such a window into the mentality of a billionaire. I feel like Donald Trump is just the pure id of a billionaire. Like if you stripped away all the cotillion manners of a Jeff Bezos, of a Mark Zuckerberg, you'd be left with that, which is honest at least. It's like, I love me
Yeah.
and whatever, like, yeah, like, you know?
Yeah. And people are actually speaking out. Or it's funny, like after everything he's done, like he finally crossed the line this time.
With Rob Reiner.
Yeah, you
We
come
live
for
in a
the.
crazy timeline. Yeah.
And yeah, we talked about billionaires, and you recently wrote a great piece about how you were radicalized and came to correctly acknowledge that they were the minority oppressing you, not insert other minority here, as others would like to
Right,
say.
right.
Y- yeah, what radicalized you? What was your journey?
Um, well, I think what radicalized me most was 2 events. One, Occupy Wall Street, seeing Obama essentially not go after, like, because he used, in a similar way to Trump, honestly, used like the hope of the disaffected to get into office. He certainly used much more inclusive and glowing language than Trump did, but he rode an almost like pseudo populist wave into office, and then you immediately see who the masters of the universe are. It's not him. Wall Street bankers got a commensurate bonus with their last year. Their bonuses rose from 2008 to 2009, right? So you see the entropy of the system, right? There is no slowing down. The rich have to get richer. Um, and then hold a snub-nosed revolver to the economy's head. If those companies fail, everyone's 401ks are wrapped up in it, everyone's pension funds, teachers, nurses, doctor, like it just all falls apart immediately because the financialization of the economy is like an octopus and it has everything. And since Reagan, essentially, we have not been able to slow that down. So I saw Obama essentially choose Wall Street over the grassroots organizing that got him elected. It was insanely radicalizing to me. Also, he did not wind down the wars. Guantanamo Bay remained open. He drone bombed a wedding in Yemen. Sorry, I'm so congested right now. I don't usually sound like this. But and then the second thing I will say is not October 7th, but October 8th,
Ooh.
right? I have consistently said October 7th, which far, far leftists will come for me for this. That fucking sucked. There was a lot of innocent people that died, but to be completely ignorant to why it happened is some willful ignorance. And I saw how much, I saw how obvious what was coming was, right? Like with the first flattening of a 9-story building in Gaza, completely indiscriminate, which happened like in the immediate aftermath. And you just saw like people who profess to have a consistent morality place Palestinian life on the same level as like a bug underneath your foot, you know?
Worse, I think it's Germany that, like, is accepting donkey refugees, but not human refugees.
Right.
Like, there are NGOs and people, like, actively looking after the animals abandoned in Gaza, but not the people. It's literally lower than a donkey.
Yeah, and that really distills, and I have this pet theory. If someone only cares about animal rights, they are probably conservative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you don't like if you are just like, "Oh man, I love dogs and cats," and they leave it there, you're like, "Well, what about that like El Salvadorian boy that was just like handcuffed and thrown in that van or that Palestinian girl who was shot?" So, that was crazy, and we're both in the comedy industry. There's a ton of Zionism in the comedy industry. Um, it's incredibly ahistorical.
And it
Uh,
hasn't been funny.
Not at all.
That's
Yeah.
another crime against comedy. Like, yeah, fucking Michael Rappaport. I say it all the time. Like, no wonder Phoebe dumped your ass in season 5 of Friends. He played a cop on Friends in season 5, which in retrospect, yeah, makes sense. But it hasn't
Yeah,
even
totally.
been
I mean,
funny.
he has cop mentality. That's I mean, yeah, because I feel like there's this like expectation of a shield. You can like say whatever you want, do whatever you want, as long as you're on that side, on the Zionist side. But it's been, and I like, I don't know if you saw, but I interviewed one of the candidates for the 11th district in California, taking Nancy Pelosi's seat, Shoykat Chakrabarty, and he was like, "It's a genocide in Gaza. What is happening is a war crime." So you see that the culture is changing. But October 8th, the culture was incredibly entrenched, even to the level where people that I thought were liberals said some of the most illiberal shit ever. Like, cut off their water, cut off their electricity, and like whatever happens, happens, which is genocidal, and is
And then are
ahistorical.
surprised, yeah, and then surprised when you tell them that it's, yeah, they're making the case for themselves. Yeah,
Yeah. Another radicalizing moment, I will say, and do you remember this? Do you remember when the sky turned orange 2 years ago in New York?
yeah, that was Canadian wildfires. That was our bad.
That was
Um,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah. Were you there for that?
I was luckily out of town, but I wasn't in Canada. It wasn't me.
Orly, you didn't light the fires?
I did it, I promise. But I
That could be
remember,
your newest credit. You'd be like,
yeah,
I burned 1/10 of Canada. Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah, it was radicalizing in that people learned what Manitoba was.
That's so true. They're like, "Oh, we gotta wipe it off the map." But
Yeah.
no, like, I was just like I was giving a tour that day, and people were like, "I don't know how you deal with the pollution in New York." And I looked at them, I was like, do you think this is what it's like in New York every day?" Like, we
Not
are
yet.
in a profound moment of normalization with genocide, air quality, uh corporate consolidation, everything. Like, you just expect things to get worse, and that does not have to be the case. Like, if like even 1 million of us in a country of 330 million, if 1 million people devoted their lives to like stopping this, it would stop. You know, it's just like this complacency is insane, and like the sky turning orange is just another example of like people being like, "Oh well, whatever." Like people were still eating outside that day. I was like, "Jesus Christ!" Like, yeah,
Yeah, that's an important myth. That might be the name of the episode. We'll see. But like things have to get worse. Like,
yes,
imagine, yeah, if everyone had said that at every stage throughout history that there's literally nothing they could do. And as a woman, I wouldn't be wearing pants or
absolutely.
have been able to
Or
buy this
talking into that
microphone.
microphone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That I bought with my own credit card. Like,
Oh,
n-
1975. Yeah.
yeah, right. That's insane that like my mom was 11 years old when that happened. In terms of progress, I often also think about the fact that my dad is older than interracial marriage in the United States. Like he was born in 1960. I think Loving versus Virginia was 67 or 68. That's insane. Like in the same way that things, yeah.
You know what's crazy is if it was 4-4 and the deciding vote was Clarence Thomas, you would
Oh,
vote against Loving versus Virginia. He would probably invalidate his own marriage in service of some nebulous concept of states' rights, you know?
yes. Oh, and that's a good seg because speaking of, yeah, states' rights. So I'm from the North, Canada, the North. You're from the South. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in North Carolina, so the old like hacky joke is like it has North in the name, but there's nothing North about it. It's a very southern state.
Yeah, what are the myths you learned growing up, especially about the war of northern aggression?
Yeah, right. The recent unpleasantness, as my uncle called it. Yeah, I guess the myth is that the Civil War was not about slavery, and you're taught that in school to increasingly exasperated teachers. I grew up in Wake County, which has uh which is like surrounded on all side by universities, so Duke, UNC, NC State. So it was a bit of a blue dot in an otherwise red state, but they still had to follow state curriculum. So they would be deeply sarcastic when they would tell us this part. And if you were smart enough, you could parse that. But if not,
That's so interesting. That's like
yeah,
the
but
power
if
of
not, they
tone.
right, right. You're like, and it would be like a slide with like 2 bullet points, and they'd be like economic reasons, which is like, yeah, the economic reason is the labor is free, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and the North benefited from it, you know, the getting like free labor like that. Obviously, there's a great book called "The Half Has Never Been Told," where it basically says slavery is what jump started the American economy above European economies. They could not compete with this huge agrarian economy with a bunch of free labor sending to an industrialized North and then exporting it. It overtook England because of that. But you essentially, it really conditions you for capitalism, right? Because it's kind of what we were talking about before. Like, this is the way it had to be, right? And the Civil War was fought to pretty much dispel that myth. I mean, John Brown had to kill a bunch of people. Bleeding Kansas had to happen. There had to be like a civil war within Kansas, which was like up for debate whether it was going to be a free or a slave state. But in the South, it's at least when I grew up, and in still parts, it's thought of as like this loss of kind of a culture or a signpost of what we once were, which was an autonomous zone in America. Not true. The North and the South have always been deeply interdependent. But it's shameful, like there's this good writer who I'm blanking on, but he wrote this really great graphic novel called Sick. And he talks about how, like, to take pride in white culture in America is like rubbing shit on yourself and being like, this is my culture. You have to respect it. And I think like what we're dealing with now is the continuing to grapple with the fact that that's what we did. That's who we are. We have to basically acknowledge it, atone for it, and then we can become something else. But until there is absolutely no debate over why the Civil War was fought, which was slavery, because when people say, oh, it was a states' rights issue, they mean a state's rights to own slaves, right? That's the entire like iteration of the thought. Where did you yeah, Canada. Did you
Yeah,
ever see
and
12 Years a Slave?
yes, yeah, the
Okay, hilarious part. Brad Pitt was the producer of that movie. He cast himself as a Canadian and comes down and is like, slavery is wrong. Like he like really did himself a favor with
ooh,
that casting.
sorry, guys.
Yeah. Don't you know? Yeah,
What
yeah.
are what are you talking about? Owning people bad. Yeah, I find it so interesting because I took American history as an elective in grade 11. But our history was also very, it was like we were nice to the aboriginals, is what they were called in textbooks while we were growing up, that we were nice to indigenous people and all the fighting was between the British and the French.
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting, like being America's neighbor, just yeah, that just gives America being so more like flagrantly racist gives us
Yes.
permission to be
A
like,
lot
well,
of
we're not
leeway.
America. There's a black woman on the $10 bill. So
And in Canada?
in Canada,
Well, hell yeah, civil rights over, dude. Like that's
exactly, we did it.
yeah, you guys accomplished it. Who is the black woman?
Oh, Viola Desmond,
Okay.
which and she was like if I recall correctly, like was like the Rosa Parks of a movie theater in Nova Scotia. Was like desegregated movie theaters in Nova Scotia, which that objectively rules. But I don't know if that her it being on the $10 bill uh,
Makes
makes
up for it.
everyone's
Yeah.
lives better, or makes up for Drake, I should say, because yeah, it's been a rough time to
Well,
be
that's what
Canadian.
we're
Yes.
facing with this. Yeah, well, that's what we're facing with this like slate of presidential candidates on the Democratic side is like the best we're gonna get is a Pyrrhic victory. For like if like Kamala Harris wins, we might get Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, but
Yeah.
genocide's not gonna slow down. Corporate consolidation is not gonna slow down. We might get like a less nasty version of ICE or something like that. So that's kind of like where I'm at with I think growing up in the South and seeing the hypocrisy of it makes you realize how you have to just shake people awake because people are willing to believe absurd shit in order to keep going with their daily lives. And the weird part about it is, I mean, you like I used to give tours in New York and people
Yeah, I
don't
love that.
want
That's just a podcast in real life.
exactly, yeah, and, like, you used to be able to say things on a tour, but with Donald Trump's reelection, I had to quit because there are people like, New York exists because of immigrants, and if you don't believe in immigration, why the fuck are you taking a tour in New York, And, like, 40% of the people are Trump supporters? So it's
Oh,
like, I
that's
can't I can't
40% of
show you New
visitors
York.
or 40% of New Yorkers.
No, 40% of visitors, I would say, like, 40%. I mean, like, that's
Wow,
a generous may
that is
yeah,
so brave of them to yeah, take their vacation as an opportunity to go into the war zone.
I know.
Yeah, dichotomy of yeah, what like What did they want to see? I thought New York is the worst.
I know. I think like they want this really sanitized vision of history, which at the end of Wall Street was the slave port. Don't say that. Don't say that one out of every 5 people in New York all the way until like 70 was enslaved, not 1870, 1827. But there's a really great version of American history where we kicked the British's ass and then 9/11 happened and we kicked their ass too. And then bing bang boom,
You forgot
22.
World War II. You forgot,
Oh yeah, World War
wow.
II. We kicked their ass too.
And just that means, yeah, American military power is an unequivocal good, bringing
Yeah,
freedom to the
absolutely.
world.
And you should not worry why your healthcare premiums are going up because we're America, God damn it, and you can send your son to war. Yeah, that's the name of this podcast. War is stupid. That's like if you were to if you were to give the best version of American history to a Trump supporter, you would talk about the Revolutionary War. You would not talk about the Civil War because that would be contentious, right? They would be like, "Oh man, we lost," and then you would talk about World War II, of course. You wouldn't mention that the French are the reason we won the Revolutionary War. They don't like that. And then you would talk about, of course, 9/11, and then maybe the 18 months after 9/11, and then it starts to get a little dicey because uh, that was a quagmire that we really didn't recover from.
Yeah, um, yeah, I wanna bring talking about the war on terror back because, yeah, apparently I've recorded the podcast earlier today about the Bondi Beach terrorist attack, and
Yeah.
that was dudes inspired by Islamic State, and that was and the only reason why that exists is because of the war in Afghanistan. So, yeah, war is stupid. Which brings
Yes.
me to the next one. The
Yes.
next big one on the horizon. So you've been talking about Cuba and Venezuela online. Like what do we have to look forward to?
So I view this conflict as essentially stamping out any vision of the future that doesn't include late stage American capitalism. So I have to emphasize this to you. I do not think Cuba is perfect. They have a higher poverty rate than the United States. They have higher literacy rate than the United States, higher life expectancy, more doctors per capita. When earthquakes happen around the world, when tidal waves happen, Cuba sends doctors to those areas. In spite of the most crippling sanctions in the Western world imposed from the United States and the allies of the United States on Cuba, the one country, not the one country, but one of the countries that does a really big amount of trade with Cuba is Venezuela. They're close, right? Uh, and again, I like people on the left piss me off so much because they're like, Venezuela is great, Cuba is great. I'm like, no, they have really good parts of it and really bad parts of it, just like America. But we are essentially trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We're trying to decapitate the Venezuelan government and steal their oil reserves, install this. I don't know what her name is, but there's this like woman who's, do you know who I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
who just won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes, Nobel Peace Prize winning woman who I think is polling at like 10% in Cuba or in Venezuela now that like
Maria
uh, you
Corina
know,
Machado.
Corina Machado, who would be a puppet for the United States. And this is the same thing we did in so many different, in Chile, with what was his name? Pinochet? Yeah, Salvador Allende,
Iran.
and then it was Pinochet. Yeah. So I guess like why Cuba is so dangerous to the United States is that it represents like imagine if they didn't have those sanctions, how much more flourishing. They're an island nation. They have to import most of their stuff, right? They don't have a lot of land to like naturally extract from. And because they have a somewhat of a people oriented government policy, they're still able to provide for their citizens in a way that, like, if America were to fold up in a similar fashion, we'd be, oh my God, we have no social safety net, right? Like, there would be starvation and riots in the streets almost immediately. So it's dangerous to have something that's 90 miles off the coast of Florida that represents a better way forward. So I think, Marco Rubio seems to be pushing this pretty vehemently. He is an agent of white supremacy. Um, he's Cuban when it suits him, right? Like when he wants voters in Florida, but by and large, he's a, a creature of Mar-a-Lago. Um, and this is also like this is just looks good for Fox News viewers to see boats getting bombed in, the water. Like they're like rah rah America. Like it's the
Mhm.
last stand of the boomer. Like we still got it, baby. Yeah. Which is I don't know. What do you think about it?
Yeah, the oil thing is so transparent, but I hadn't made the Cuba connection that like Cuba's happiness automatically disproves America's theory of change, theory of capitalism,
Right.
capitalist supremacy. But I wonder, are people excited to send their kids to die for Venezuelan oil? Like that's the disconnect for me is because Trump, it's the Democrats' fault that they let him run as an anti-war candidate, and so people were like, "Yeah, no foreign wars, America first." Where are people at with that, or are they thinking that no, they'll get a seat on the oil company's board in
Right, right.
exchange for for
Hunter Biden.
invading?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like yeah, that's a really good point. I never thought about that. Yeah, they let him run as like an anti-war candidate. He didn't I mean, he bombed the fuck out of a bunch of like he literally said that on like I think Fox News or whatever. He's like, I'm gonna bomb the fuck out of them. That's what he said, like in response to like ISIS. He has no plan, but that's the problem when Kamala Harris uh campaigns with Liz Cheney and says we need to have the most lethal military on earth. It's like you don't leave any room for disagreement. You like carry water for the establishment. Uh, and I'm like not sure at all if like it might be a different pretext, but there's no telling that Democrats wouldn't do this too. Like I am not.
Yeah,
I
the same
am
donors, the same weapons manufacturers and
right.
oil
It's like,
companies.
and we want like the AI data centers need fuel. You know, uh, all those like green energy policies are going out the window to feed overwhelming demand. So, I mean, there's really no like that's the problem with Democrats is they don't have any leg to stand on when it comes to imperial policy. They are slightly better on domestic policy, but they are one and the same when it comes to foreign wars. At least in my lifetime, like Dick Cheney or not Dick Cheney, Bill Clinton bombed like the former Yugoslavia to like distract from Monica Lewinsky, right? Like, there's no telling what that would do.
Yeah, oh God, it's the Epstein files with every drip. Like those poor fishermen in the Caribbean are like literally victims of the Epstein files.
Right.
Like
Right.
every
Yeah.
time
It's
there's
like
a drop.
yeah, if like Donald Trump is shown to have his arms around a blonde woman, that's another like 12 boats getting bombed. It's like so cynical, but it's the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's so interesting that things may or may not be changing. That you were interviewing a congressional candidate who says genocide. I'm having a congressional candidate on the show or interviewing, and the Chuck Park for Queens, Chuck for Queens.com. And the fact that he'll do a podcast called War is Stupid, an anti war podcast about war at all, makes me think that maybe things are changing, or if anything, for the purpose of getting elected.
Yeah, right. Like the big thing is like what happens when a freshman congressman comes in or they just like vote party line, fuck you.
Hmm.
But I don't know, you got to try. I mean, that's what like again, like the very far left, like the anarchists, communists that like follow me which I love, and I like identify with them more than I identify with this two-party system. But it is important to pressure the system from all points. And I do think it is valuable that elected officials are saying it's a genocide. We shouldn't be fighting any more wars. Where it gets really sticky is like, what do you do with Ukraine? But that's like, we would have to talk about that for another hour. But like, it's just like, what do you do about aggressors in the world and stuff like that? But it's cool to be in New York. It's cool to be in California, where you're kind of like, or you could go to like Minneapolis, Denver, these places where it's like, it's almost like a laboratory of how far left something can go in the current like paradigm. Because the Overton window has shattered with the war in Gaza, and it seems to have opened the genocide in Gaza. It seems to have opened up new possibilities for what is acceptable in to say to the body politic.
Yeah, this will probably come out in January, so we'll be living in Zoran Mamdani's New York. So I can only imagine, yeah, the tourists coming to town.
Right.
I yeah, will be are even more brave than
Yeah, I hope
ever.
so. Or he's gonna be like ice, like he's gonna get an ice raid in Gracie Mansion, you know? They're gonna break
Yeah.
open his door. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, at least that's something new.
Right, yeah, yeah. Something new is gonna happen no matter what.
Yeah, I I don't want to engage in toxic positivity, but yeah, is there anything out there, be it a movement, of a politician, that gives you hope for the future?
Uh, I would say, like, the thing that gives me hope is the, strikes that I see, like, the Starbucks strike, that was really, really cool. Like, they have the worst, ratio from CEO pay to average worker pay on the S&P 500. People don't believe his bullshit anymore. I saw that Trump gave a rally and said inflation is a hoax, and it was deafening silence. So that I think, like, people waking up to the fact of their power, that's what gives me hope.
Yeah, I keep thinking to the fact, like, it's okay, it's almost January, it's been a year, he's back. Like, are people's lives better? Can you eat racism?
That should be the episode. That should be the podcast
Yeah,
title. Can you
can
eat
you
race?
eat racism? Yeah, but because the people on top are fed and sustained by it, but the everyday people, and it sounds like odds are there's going to be more Hollywood strikes,
Really?
or at
They
least there
fucking
should
better,
be.
dude. Like, it's existential. The
Yeah, like,
Coca-Cola ad is 2 years running now. All AI. Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah, yeah, that's why support independent media. Where,
Yes.
where can
Subscribe.
people find you? Yeah, like and subscribe.
Yeah. Davidson Boswell on everything. So Substack, Patreon, TikTok, Instagram. Yeah, you can follow me there. And
Anarchists
thank
welcome. Two-party system adherents welcome as well. Building a big tent.
coalition building. Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna spurn you for voting for Kamala or Trump, Yeah. But I will raise my eyebrows. I'll be like, huh, why? Yeah.
So yeah, amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, Orly. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm sure I'll see you in person soon. We organize together, so looking forward to that.
Thank you for listening and or watching War is Stupid, an anti-war podcast about war. Please subscribe, rate and review, tell your dads. We'll see you next time.